Tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, hine ma tov, yadadai, yadadai. Hine ma tov, hine ma tov, yadadai, yadadai. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
How good and pleasant it is when brothers and sisters dwell together in peace. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Congregation Akdu Fisholem. We're so glad to see everyone here. We particularly welcome our guests this evening. My name is Ronnie Greenberg. This is my husband, Norm. We are not the rabbis. Rabbi Bargeron is on a well-deserved vacation this week, and we are lay leadership filling in for him. So we will continue now with our Kabbalat Shabbat, or welcoming Shabbat, on page 142 with Shalom Aleichem, and then we will flip back to 130 for Lechu Neranana. So 142 and then 130.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seistem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 ya la la. La 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 ya la 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 ya la la la. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. נריע לצור ישנו, מכאן נפל בתודה. נריע לצור ישנו, בזמירות נריע לו. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני.
We welcome Shabbat now with kindling of the Sabbath candles. And I invite Marcia Reynolds to the bima to light the candles and say the blessing for us.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe and power of himself, commanding us to live in life.
Thank you, Marcia. We continue on page 138 with the singing of Lecha Dodi. When we get to the last verse, I will ask you to rise and turn and face the door of the sanctuary to greet the Sabbath bride.
Dodi לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקרא בהלה. דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקרא בהלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקרא בהלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקרא בהלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ונתילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקרא בהלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקרא בהלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, מהראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תהילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקרא בהלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקרא בהלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, דיבה אורך קומי, אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נקרא. לך, דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקרא לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקרא.
Please rise.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וזאת חולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקרא. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקרא. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקרא.
We continue on page 144 with the Hatsi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמך רבה,
Amen.
ילמד דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייך ובימיך ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובשמח הקריב, ואמרו
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך, וישתבח, ויבער זרמם ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה,
Rihu.
לעולם כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה בנחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ואמרו
Amen. We continue with the Baruch Hu, the call to worship on page 146.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Amivora Baruch Adonai Amivora Amivora Leolam Ba'ed Amivora Amivora Leolam Ba'ed.
You may be seated. We read together on the bottom of page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. We continue on page 150, reading together. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We continue on page 152 with the Shema. Please rise.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated.
Ek Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha, v'hayu advarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibartam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, uvlechtecha b'derech, ושכבך ובקומך וקשרתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, הם אמת.
We continue on page 157, reading together at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi Chamocha on the next page, 158.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehtat b'kodesh, nora tehilot tosef eleh, nora tehilot tosef eleh. Malchutecha ubonecha, okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Se'elianu ve'amru, Se'elianu ve'amru, Adonai imlo le'olam. Olam Vaed Adonai Imloch Le'olam Vaed. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai 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 la 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 lai. Ya lai la lai 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 la la lai. Ya la lai lai ya la 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 lai.
We continue on page 160, reading together the translation of the Hashkivenu prayer. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel for your name's sake. Be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom Elenu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. May we lie down each night in peace and be raised up to life renewed. May the shelter of your peace encircle the world again. May we be kept from hatred and war. May we be kept from hunger and pain. May the shelter of your peace encircle the world again. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom. May the shelter of your peace be spread over us, 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 and all the world. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom. May the shelter of your peace be spread over us, 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 and all the world. May we lie down each night in peace and be raised up to life renewed. May the shelter of your peace encircle the world again. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. Please rise for the tefillah on page 164, going by even number pages through 170. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Yagita Hilatecha
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'imatenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zecher hasdei avot v'imahot, U'mevig ula l'mayvnehem, L'ma'an Shema b'yahava, Melech ozer u'Mashiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham v'ezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע.
מוריד הטל,
מחיי חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מהלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמרת לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל ים יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue with silent meditation. Page 180, Oseh Shalom.
Oseh
Shalom, Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom. Shalom Bimromav. Yaseh, Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Elenu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh, Yaseh shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh, Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Elenu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ve'imeru amen. We think now and pray for those who are ill, those who are ill with COVID-19, those in quarantine who are experiencing stress and worry of uncertainty, and the following members of our congregation. Okay. We'll start singing the first verse of the Misha Beirach, and then I'll read the list of names and we'll sing the second part. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. We think of Barry Alberts, Brent Beatty, Rena Black, Judy Bloch, Louis Bloom, Ruth Bloom, Don Bobe, Andrew Bissell, Hope Pyle Boyce, Pircha Bat Bracha, Adolph Breitman, Adrienne Breitman, Roberta Butts, Jennifer Cohen, Dennis Cordijo, Todd Crago, Kenna Davis, Dan Drogmeyer, Tobias Enright, Nancy Ferguson, Marietta Fry, Keegan Gallagher, Joe Gold, Alan Goldberg, Ken Gottlieb, Susan Hine, Karen Heller, Lucy Ann Heller, Terry Hochstetler, Tim Johnston, Rabbi Jonathan Katz, Doris Kingberry, Thea Levine, Renee Marver, Kaylin Nagel, Nancy Novak, Tom O'Neill, Paul Richmond, Janet Rosenberg, Pat Ruhr, Esther Campbell Russ, Debbie Sherray, Linda Smith, Gary Smythe, Larry Steinbacher, Kathy Stoller, Moishe Chaim Ben Reuben, Lucien Batnatan Varachel, Bobby Williams, Manacher Zogi. Are there other names you would like to add to the Misha Beirach list?
Imotenu mikol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with the refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirits, and let us say, Amen.
Well, Shabbat Shalom again to everyone. The Torah portion this week is V'ha'alotecha, a mouthful. It means when you bring up. Let me explain. The Torah portions are named by the first significant word in that portion. Many Torah portions start with the formulaic that says, God spoke to Moses saying, speak to Aaron and say to him, etc. So to choose any of those words could be scores of Torah portions. Okay, so the first unique word in this Torah portion is V'ha'alotecha et hanerot, when you mount the lamps. So the portion is named for the V'ha'alotecha. This Torah portion contains in its first part many of the rituals for the service of the priests in the tabernacle and how the tabernacle should be arranged and set up. The children of Israel at this point are still at Sinai. They haven't yet started their journey through the desert. They're getting ready to go. So God has given all these instructions to Moses to give to Aaron for how the tabernacle should be handled and set up during the trip. Then the section comes that concentrates on the instructions for traveling. These were in the years, for those of you who are young, believe it or not, before cell phones, and you couldn't text, turn left at the next sand dune. There had to be instructions somehow conveyed to these thousands of people how to get where they're going, when to stop and make camp for the night, etc. So this portion lays that out using trumpets and a column of a cloud. And so all of that is also laid out. And then in the third part of this Torah portion is a recounting of the discontent of some of the Israelites. They haven't even started out yet, and already they're complaining. Well, they're humans. We humans complain. They're complaining about, they're nostalgic for all the stuff they had back in Egypt. They are complaining because they have no meat. They're already tired of eating manna, et cetera, et cetera. So Moses reacts with very deep despair to the point of asking to die rather than to bear the burden of the leadership of this group of people. In response to his petition concerning that burden, God instructs him to gather representative elders of Israel and bestow some of his spirit upon them so that they can share the burden of the governing. So God created the first board of directors, basically. So But the problem deepens because two of the people complaining are Miriam and Aaron, who are Moses's brother and sister, and also two leaders of the people. Let me read you what they say. When they were in Hazarot, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman he had married. They said, "Has Adonai spoken only through Moses? Has God not spoken through us as well?" Adonai heard it. Now, Moses was a very humble leader, more so than any other human being on earth. Suddenly, Adonai called to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, "Come out, you three, to the tent of meeting." Sort of like being called to the bosses, my office now, right? So the three of them went out. Adonai came down in a pillar of cloud, stopped at the entrance of the tent, and called out, "Aaron and Miriam." The two of them came forward, and God said, "Hear these my words. When prophets of Adonai arise among you, I make myself known to them in a vision. I speak with them in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is trusted throughout my household. With him I speak mouth to mouth, plainly and not in riddles, and he beholds the likeness of Adonai. How then did you not shrink from speaking against my servant Moses?" Still incensed with them, Adonai departed. As the cloud withdrew from the tent, there was Miriam stricken with snow white scales. Wait a minute. What? Didn't we read on the page before that Miriam and Aaron spoke out against Moses? And they said, "Hasn't Adonai spoken to you," et cetera, et cetera. But Miriam was stricken with tsoraat, scales. Yes, that is true. Well, the rabbis have over the centuries come up with all kinds of reasons why it was just Miriam and not Aaron, et cetera, et cetera. But the Torah book I am using is a woman's commentary. And there are sometimes different points of view in here. And I'd like to share one with you that was written by a woman named Beth Alpert Nakai. She says, where did I want to start? Aaron seems not to suffer for his insubordination, but Miriam's punishment is described in detail. She is afflicted with a horrible skin ailment that threatens to place her in a state of ritual impurity and block her access to God's holiness. As if this were not enough, she must remain outside the Israelites' encampment for a full week, like a disobedient daughter shamed by her father. At first, the story of Miriam seems a perfect example of a double standard. For God permits the brother independent thought, but punishes the sister for the very same ideas and words. Still, she writes, the story is more than that, for it shows us how much all of Israel valued Miriam. Her brothers plead for her as Aaron beseeches Moses, and then Moses prays to God to reverse their sister's punishment. And his prayer is one we sometimes use as part of the Mishaberach, El na rafana la, God, please heal her. And the people do not respond by abandoning this victim of God's great anger. Rather, they did not march on until Miriam was readmitted 7 days later, thus expressing their solidarity with the woman who in happier times led them in victory song and celebration. So the children of Israel showed their support for Miriam, although in our modern viewpoint, she was the victim of biased punishment, because Aaron wasn't punished, but Miriam was. something that might have been accepted several thousand years ago, but it's a little harder for us to rationalize it today. So, baha'alotaha. Okay, some announcements. Okay, so welcome to those of you who are here in person and those who are joining online. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, son. Oh, and Rabbi Safran is with us tonight. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Safran. Glad to have you with us. We are in need of ushers for June services. We cannot safely have services in the building without them. So please contact the office to sign up. And thank you tonight to Mickey and Sherwin Keeps for ushering for us. We appreciate it. We are thrilled to hear of the new CDC guidance regarding masks and COVID. However, we are still asking that masks be worn inside the building and social distancing remain in place. Thank you for your patience and understanding. The religious school is seeking a principal for the 21-22 school year. Applications are now being accepted and should be sent to the email of the president, presidentcav@gmail.com. Tomorrow morning at 9:45, Shabbat morning services will be held by Zoom only. Make sure to put June the 9th on your calendar for this year's annual meeting. This will be a hybrid meeting. If you'd like to attend in person, please RSVP to the office by June 2nd. Ballots and information were sent out this week to all members. All voting, whether you're in person or Zooming, will be by ballot sent, hard copy ballot sent to the office. After services conclude today, if you will please stay in your seat, the ushers will dismiss you in an orderly fashion. And thank you again to Mickey and Sherwin for ushering, and to our temple staff and security team, and to the Friedmans who will be leading service tomorrow morning, and to Norm Greenberg for the lovely music.
and the Ronnie Greenberg.
Okay. All right, we begin the conclusion of our service with the Elenu on page 586, and please rise. Oh, should I? Nope. Yep.
Elenu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tei gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot hadama. Shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vigor alenu yechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz. V'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad. U'shemo U'shemo echad.
You may be seated. Nope. Not closing. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We think of those in the period of Shaloshim who have passed away within the last 30 days, Norman Snow and Joan Kramer. Excuse me. Those in the period of Shana who have died within the last year, Manny Silverman, Ruby Jackson, Ron Subek, Harold Prigozhin, Sarah Lee Levin, Marilyn Salen, Marvin Krell, Jack Rosenberg, Leah Bat Menashe V. Bila, Kathy Jarvis, James Lieb, and Christina Bacher. And we think of those for whom this is the anniversary of their death, their yahrzeit. David G. Althide, Vida Asael, Eva Bazel, Abraham Breitman, Michla Bridle, Miriam Bren, Peter Bronstein, Mitchell Bronstein, Norma Jean Chambers, Anna Jones Clark, Gertrude Klein, Fanny Edelman, Miriam Felakovitz, Eugene M. Frank, George Ivan Frederick, Yetta Freiberger, Rose Gibson, Leon Hassad, Gettel Himmelstein, Herbert W. Isay, Marvin Katz, Henry Keeps, Annette P. Kesselman, Harry King, Aaron Comito, Helen Cornspan, Jan Levin, Danny Levin, Sylvia Levine, Jack Levine, Ray Lip, Pearl Marks, Barbara Miller, Beryl Novitsky, Thelma Oxtein, Abraham Pallas, Donald Persky, Rabbi Herman Price, James Rakes, Orion Reynolds, Myron Russ, Sarah Salen Kay, Louis Siegel, David Silverman, Harry Slutsky, Iris Sokolov, Alexander Soresh, Herman Stern, Marion Sweedler, Norma Trauner, Bud Turansky, Isidore Vigran, Samuel Weiner, Sally Zellinger. Are there any other names for the yahrzeit? Okay. We will continue as we rise as a congregation to recite the Mourner's Kaddish found on page 598. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrah hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'hayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah m'varach le'olam u'me'alamaya. Yit barak v'yish tabak v'yit po'ar v'yit ramam v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemei d'kudisha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nehemata da'miram v'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'hayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. We will conclude our service with singing Adon Olam. You'll find it on page 625. Yep. And then we'll have a quick Kaddish, and then we will wish each other Shabbat Shalom. So Adon Olam, page 625. Adon Olam Asher Mala
בטרם כה יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה לתפארה. והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו להכבירה, ולי ראשית ולי תכלית, ולא העוז והמזרח. והוא אלי וחי גואלי, בערב לי ועת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי בים אקרב. בידו אכיר רוחי, בעת תשען בעירה, ואם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. Yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la yalla la, yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la yalla la, yalla la la la, yalla la yalla la, yalla la la la, la. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la, ya la 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 ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. L'chaim.
Thank you all for coming, and Shabbat Shalom.